I'm Allie, and this is When the Snow Falls, a web show where different speakers tell their own personal stories involving mental health. Today's speaker is Hannah, and some possible triggers in her story include depression, self-injury, family dysfunction, mania, and alcohol abuse. As always, though, we ask you to be mindful of any personal triggers that you may have while viewing this story or any other in the future. Once you're done listening, we encourage you to submit any questions that you may have for Hannah about her story through our blog at snowfallstogether.tumblr.com. Thank you so much for watching and listening to Hannah's story and helping to spread the awareness that it's okay to talk about struggles with mental health. Thanks again, and here's Hannah.
So my story kind of starts with my parents getting divorced. I was about 6 or 7 at the time, and that in and of itself had literally no effect at all on me. I literally reacted to the news with, "Oh yay, I get to live in 2 houses now." But it was not long after my dad moved out that I started noticing my mother was acting very differently. All of a sudden, she was just very unpredictable. She would get angry all the time over absolutely nothing. I remember one time she slapped me in the face because she heard me talking on the phone with my dad and decided I was trying to exclude her. So that was not very easy, and because I was still pretty young, I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what could possibly be happening and why she was doing this and what was going on. And the conclusion I came to was, oh, she's mad all the time and she's really unpredictable and stuff because of me. It's because I'm a bad person and everything I do is wrong and I don't deserve to live, and that's why she's so mad all the time. And looking back now, I can see that that was kind of the start of my depression. But at the time, I didn't even know what mental illness was. I didn't even know that there was such a thing as mental illness. And I literally just thought, that's the way the world really is, and I'm just realizing it. The world really just does hate me, and I really don't deserve to live. And there was literally nothing to prove me wrong. So I kind of ended up coming to the conclusion that I don't deserve to live, and I'm not going to kill myself. So what I needed to do to make up for it is I need to be punished for being alive and for continuing to live. And so what happened was when I was 12, I started cutting myself. And when it started, it was really just, I thought I needed to be punished for pretty much anything. But it did not take me long at all to realize that whenever I cut, I would just feel better. Whatever bad things were going through my mind, if I was upset, if I was scared, if I was angry, if I was stressed, it would just go away. And I would feel better. Even just for a little bit, I would feel better. And that very quickly became the only way that I knew of to cope with any bad feelings I was having. And that went on for a few years, and I didn't really see a way out. I didn't really know that there even was such a thing as self-injury. And I just assumed that this was another thing about me that was messed up and wrong. And I figured I'm just going to be doing this for as long as I can see in the future. This is just always going to be the way that I am. I'm always going to be this messed up freak who doesn't deserve to live, who does this freaky thing like hurting herself. And I just kind of had accepted that, and I was miserable. I knew, I think even then, that hurting myself was a very bad thing to be doing, but I literally could not see another way of life keeping going on. But things took a turning point when I was a little bit before I turned 15. My mother had very suddenly just said to me and my sister one weekend, "Come on, pack your bags, we're going to New York." She wouldn't explain why. She didn't give us the option of staying home with my dad. She just said, "We're going to New York, we have to go to New York." So we drove out of state, dropped the car off at a train station, and went to New York for the weekend, and stayed with a family friend, and that was just all well and good. Then Sunday night, we were on our way back. We got to the train station, and we got to the parking garage where we left the car. And all of a sudden, my mother was just saying, "We can't get in that car. We can't go home. If we get in that car, we will die. There's poison gas in that car. I can't drive that car. We're going to die if we get in that car." And I think that this was kind of a mark of how bad things with my mother had gotten over the years. That I honestly did not have the reaction of, oh my God, something is very wrong with my mother. Something is very wrong. I need to get help from somebody. I literally just thought, oh great, my mother's being weird again. So I just went, okay, I gotta talk her down. I gotta take care of this. I gotta get us home. And I did. I managed to get her to get in the car, and I managed to get us back home, and just kind of didn't really let myself think anything else of the incident. I called my dad the next day and mentioned it in passing, and just kind of framed it as, oh yeah, Mom was being weird yesterday. And then put it out of my mind. But that night, my dad called me back and told me, Hannah, you're going to need to stay with me for a while. I'm coming over to your house tomorrow, and we're taking your mom to the hospital because she needs to go into the psych ward. And I just remember it felt like the world was literally falling out from underneath me at that moment. I can't explain why, but I just felt like everything was wrong. Everything was just never going to be okay again, and it was my fault. And I should have done better. I should have done more. I should have fixed my mother somehow, and I hadn't, and nothing would ever be okay again. So I did the only thing I knew how to do. I went and literally tore up my entire room looking for something to hurt myself with. And I just remember after I had done it, I was just staring down at all the blood, and it was so bad I probably should have gotten stitches. And that was kind of what made me realize, you've done this to yourself. You've done this really, really bad thing to yourself, Hannah, and you can't keep doing this anymore. You can't keep doing this damage to yourself anymore. So that was my turning point. That was when I kind of realized that I needed to somehow stop. The only problem was I didn't really know how to stop. I didn't have any other coping mechanisms. Nothing had really changed except for the fact that I really, really recognized that what was going on was wrong and that it really, really, really needed to change. But absolutely nothing changed except for every time that I cut myself, I would feel kind of even more guilt and feel like, well, I'm not strong enough to stop. I am even worse of a person because I should be stopping this and I'm not. And that just makes me even more of a horrible person. That makes me even more worthless. But that was just kind of the way things were for me. And I kind of got through it by telling myself, well, you know what, Hannah? Life at home is really horrible, because my mother had been in and out of the hospital for the next few years after the incident at the train station. She was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and was not very good at staying on her meds. So it was a very stressful home environment, and it made sense to me. I told myself it made sense that I was still cutting, and I thought, you know what, as soon as I get to college, it'll all be okay. And as soon as I get to college, I will stop, and everything will be better, and I will never feel depressed again. So I got to college, and I was definitely away from my family. I was in a very different environment, but it didn't really change how I felt at all. I still felt like I was worthless, like I was a horrible person. I was terrified that everybody in my dorm hated me and wanted nothing to do with me and only ever even spoke to me because they felt bad and they felt obligated to. But I had gone into college telling myself, no matter what you feel, no matter what happens, you're not going to cut. So instead, I started drinking because that pretty much had the same effects. It made me forget these bad feelings for at least a little while, and it was socially acceptable. Everybody was drinking. So that seemed like it was the perfect solution. But I very, very quickly got out of control and ended up in the hospital after a night of way, way, way too much drinking. I don't even remember anything of what happened. But I know that the next day I came back to my dorm and my roommate just told me, I'm moving out because I can't deal with the responsibility of living with someone like you. And that was, I think, really the lowest point that I ever really hit, because not only was I feeling horrible, and not only did I feel like I had absolutely no options anymore because I couldn't cut myself, and now I couldn't drink because that had gone so badly too, but also I was being ostracized, and I was being told that I was wrong and I was worthless, and people really did want nothing to do with me because of who I was and because of all these bad things in my brain. But I guess the thing is, when you hit your lowest point, you're open to your greatest change, and things did turn around. Because of my hospitalization, I was judicially mandated to go into an alcohol awareness counseling program. And I was very, very angry about having to do this, because I figured it would just be more of telling me what I was doing wrong and how I shouldn't be drinking and how it was a horrible thing. But it was exactly the opposite. My alcohol awareness counseling program ended up being literally the first time anybody had ever asked me something like, "Why are you drinking like this?" And it was the first time I ever had to think about this and think about these bad things that I was doing and think about why. And I remember telling my counselor, I drink because I have all these horrible feelings and I don't know how to deal with them. And if I don't drink, then I'm going to cut, because I don't know how to deal with feeling like I don't deserve to live. And that was, I think, the first time I'd ever really opened up to somebody who wasn't a very close friend about these feelings. And it was terrifying, but it was something I needed to do. And it was through the alcohol awareness counseling program that I was diagnosed with depression, and it was terrifying because I was terrified of getting a label like that. I was terrified of being told that I had a mental illness, because I thought that meant I could end up just like my mother, and I did not want that to happen. But it also was the biggest relief, because it meant, okay, yes, there's something wrong, but it's not you. It's not who you are, and it can change, and you can get better, and you can get help. And that was something that I honestly had never even realized before. So that was something incredible. And I very quickly started therapy and actually cooperated with my therapist, because I'd been in therapy in the past and had not cooperated at all. I cooperated with my therapist, and I started antidepressants, and those two things worked to make things so much better for me. I can't say that things at my school got any better. I ended up transferring, but I also ended up coming to the school where I'm at now, which was such an incredible change. I found such an incredible, supportive, welcoming community, and I kind of learned even more definitively from the people that I met here that having a mental illness doesn't make me bad or wrong, and it doesn't make me degenerate or worthless or a freak, and it's okay to not be totally on point and to have bad days and to do stupid things, and gave me the courage to kind of really let myself get better. And now it's been over a year since I last cut, and I honestly, looking back, I know that I never ever could have imagined that I would be anywhere near where I am now, and that's honestly the greatest thing I could have ever asked for.